This is Duarte Mendonca, Director of Talent Acquisition at FTD Companies, and I'm next on the RecTech podcast.
Welcome to RecTech, the podcast where recruiting and technology intersect. Each month, you'll hear from vendors shaping the recruiting world, along with recruiters who'll tell you how they use technology to hire talent. Now, here's your host, the mad scientist of online recruiting, Chris Russell.
This is RecTech, the only podcast that helps employers and recruiters connect with more candidates through technology-inspired conversations. The world of digital recruiting is evolving rapidly, and our mission is to teach you about the new tools and tactics for finding talent. Today's show is a recruiter edition. The RecTech podcast is sponsored by our friends over at HiredTool, the recruiter's best friend. Don't take my word for it. Listen to what real recruiters say about the product. Emily Duran writes on Facebook, I get amazing results with the latest version of HiredTool. The AI search is the best out there. It's also easy to get more info, sort, and contact. And Rajiv Ryan also says on Facebook that the AI sourcing in the latest version is just awesome. It is user-friendly and adds new profiles to projects. Certainly useful for sourcing software talent in the U.S. Find them on the web at hiredtool.com. That's HireTual.com. And a reminder, the show and find this and other shows on hrpodcasters.com, part of that network. All right, let's bring on our guest. So if you go to Duarte Mendonca's LinkedIn profile, it will say something like this: "Cut me, I will bleed talent acquisition." When I read that along with the rest of his profile, I knew he should be on the podcast. And here he is. Duarte, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well out here in hot and humid Connecticut. So you have a pretty interesting recruiting LinkedIn profile up there. I wrote about it on Recruiting Headlines last week, kind of pointed out why I thought it was a great profile from your cover photo displaying the company URL for jobs and just explaining in your initial opening there who you are and why you're looking, why you might be looking at that person's profile. So kudos for that. I think a lot of people, I showed it too, really liked it. So where did you get the idea, to come up with that type of opening for your LinkedIn profile, first of all?
Well, I do quite a bit of cyber sloughing, in particular on LinkedIn and other platforms, and I thought it made sense to make it as easy as possible for people to identify why I'm taking a quick peek at their profile and how they can apply for my employer that I represent. Again, the path of least resistance and trying to be able to capture someone and start that conversation. I think everything that I do, whether it's leveraging technology or in messaging, it's really to facilitate that conversation or to spark that conversation with potential candidates.
Yeah, let me read some of it to the audience as well. So his headline says, "Cut me, I will bleed talent acquisition," which is definitely eye-catching. And then it goes on to say, recruiting all FTD company roles. DM me here via LinkedIn or email your resume to your email address. And you actually list your resume, email address right there on the second line. Then it says, let's talk. If I review your profile, I have one of two purposes. You have posted amazing content, and I'm looking for the insight I can gain from you. Or number two, I'm an active recruiter, and I would be interested in having a conversation with you. I'm a professionally persistent director of TA. I hope to serve as a strategic talent advisor to both candidates and hiring managers. So, well put, Duarte. So first of all, I love that you put the email address on there again, because it just makes it a lot easier to contact you, number one. And I've never seen somebody actually tell them why you might be looking at it. So kudos there again in the next section. So my big question for you, is this working? Is it really, are you getting more invites through this? Are you getting more inquiries about jobs through this type of profile?
I definitely get plenty of invites to connect, and with some of the candidates, I'm pinging them back, obviously asking for what their intended purpose is to connect, to try to focus a little bit more over quality over quantity. But it has worked with some individuals. I'm surprised with other ones that it has not. I'll message them after they invite me to connect, and I try to invite everybody to meet in the first 30 days and spend 10 to 15 minutes to having a conversation. Everything that I'm doing is intended to have that conversation and figuring out where there might be potential synergies or opportunities for employment, whether it's today or in the future, because you're always thinking proactively and trying to be ahead of the game.
Yeah. Okay. So describe your recruiting team, if you would. I'm curious how many recruiters you have, the number of open jobs you have, types of jobs as well. Could you just set the scene for us here?
Yeah, so I have a core of 6 team members, essentially 4 recruiters and 2 coordinators. We do flex up with some contracted staffing when needed, depending on the cycle that we're going through. We're kind of going through a transition here at FTD and really be more technology driven and helping that drive the floral and gifting environment. So projects and things that we're working on is an IT sales team. We're looking at modifying some of what we're doing with sales, being more customer centric. So we have finance, IT, sales, creative. We run pretty much the gamut with opportunities here at FTD companies.
Okay. And where are you hiring at? Is it all across the country? Is it centralized or?
So we aren't centralized. We also have our distribution centers. So we have them throughout the country for our brands. But our primary hubs are in Downers Grove, Illinois. We plan on opening up a potential office here in Chicago downtown. And then we also have our Pro Flowers, Sherry's Berries out in California in San Diego. So I do have part of my team that is remote there in San Diego.
Okay. And FTD is, you don't do any retail. You're primarily more the distributor of the flowers, things like that?
So e-commerce. So
okay.
we have a couple different brands. So for FTD, it's more member focused, but we do have drop ship through FTD and then Pro Flowers that we have it online, Sherry's Berries, obviously with the gourmet foods. We have also personal creations with other gifting, so predominantly e-commerce gifting sector.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. And how many open roles do you have right now?
Right now, it's bouncing between about 40 and 50.
40 and 50. Okay. I wanted to ask you. This wasn't on my initial list, but I read a story yesterday about something called ghosting in the recruiting process. Have you heard this term yet?
Yes, actually, I shared that article probably a week or two back.
Did you?
About ghosting and how it's actually now happening to recruiters. They're being ghosted by candidates.
Yeah.
Seen some interesting comments there and some of those threads where candidates will, what goes around comes around.
Yep.
Recruiters haven't always responded, and the candidates feel obviously kind of heartbroken and heartstroke with not getting those responses. And you do see that quite a bit from both sides, recruiters and from candidates ghosting. But you're seeing it quite a bit more now from candidates just disappearing and not responding to any inquiries.
Yeah. Has it happened to you guys there?
Yeah, I'm teaching the team here to be a little bit more persistent just because we don't get 1 or 2 responses, really focusing and trying to transition the relationship and recognizing that candidates do have more leverage at this time because there's more opportunities for them with unemployment numbers obviously being for every open position, there's 0.9 people. So there's not even one unemployed person for every job that's posted. That's down from 1.6, probably about 6 to 9 months ago. So we're definitely trying to be more focused on courting individuals and really trying to get them and sell them versus probing so much. So recognizing the relationship has changed and we can't just expect after 1 or 2 attempts, even if we had the initial engagement, we need to continue to try to reach out to them. Not that we're stalking them, but trying to keep that between 3 to 5 inquiries to make sure that we are exhausting all attempts. People are also busy. There's things going on in their life. And cutting through all the noise, I think, is what's really important. When people say that there's a war on talent, I argue there's more of a war on communication and how you cut through that noise and actually can relay your message and tell your story to candidates. That's
a great point. It's getting through to the person today seems to be the biggest challenge. You can find them easily, but it's just getting your message across in front of their face is definitely a challenge, right?
Yeah, timing is everything. We're leveraging our applicant tracking system more and sending out personalized messages and trying to use token trackers. This way we can see if they're reading the emails, when they're reading, is there more optimal time to be able to message these candidates. So really playing around and kind of trial and error with our messaging and trying to figure out when we can get higher response rates. Definitely focusing on the personalization is really important.
Okay, well, let's talk about that for a second. So first of all, what is your ATS there?
Our applicant tracking system, we're using ADP's recruiting management.
Okay. And you talked about sending personalized messages and tracking that. So can you dive a little bit deeper into that? How do you do that? What is a token? maybe for the layman out there, how would you do something like that?
So within our applicant tracking system with ADP, we can actually enter the candidates into the requisition and then send emails, candidate emails, which will actually already have a token tracker from the applicant tracking system. And we can see when the individual's opening the email, what time they read it, how many times they viewed that. So that provides a lot more insight. So if we're messaging someone 2 to 3 times and we're seeing that they're always opening it up at 8 p.m., maybe there's an opportunity to schedule our next communication around that 8 p.m. time, or even adjusting our schedules to make ourselves available to ping that individual to start that conversation. Because again, that's what we're really trying to cut through is get that initial contact. I believe once we get them on the phone or get them engaged and we're able to tell the rest of our story, we can really get people into FTD companies. We have an exciting story of what we're trying to do in turning around a 100-year-old company with our technology, that people hear it, that they want to be part of it. It's just getting to that candidate at first.
Yeah. So that marketing piece, that tracking piece is built into the ADP product?
Yeah, for certain messages. So there's particular messages that you have to build out. So they have candidates send emails that we go into the system and we create them ourselves. And we can go ahead and customize them based on the individual candidate before we actually push them out. And we can see that information within the applicant tracking system in that candidate's history. And we can measure when they're opening up the emails, when they're viewing it, et cetera. So yes, it's built in.
Yeah. Any thoughts on what type of open rate you're getting on those emails? Could you throw out a number for us? Maybe that would be useful to know.
So within the applicant tracking system, we haven't necessarily been tracking the open rates. That's something that we don't have built out within the ATS. I'm also trying to just shift and focus a lot more of our communications coming out of the applicant tracking system. So we're trying to use a multiple prong attack when we're reaching candidates. So if we're able to use tools such as Connectify or Lucia or Contact Out to find cell phones, emails, what we're trying to do is reach out to them on LinkedIn or GitHub, whatever professional social media profile that they have, within an email. And then if we have their cell phone number, we're going out and searching what their gateway is and then sending them in that same email to their SMS message to their cell phones. We see a higher response rate with that, especially when we have people that are ghosting us. That's kind of the go-to, is trying to find their cell phone number and message them on there, and finding out one way or the other if they're interested in opportunities.
Yeah. Do you have a tool for text messaging, or are you just having your recruiters, reach out via their phones?
So for text messaging, we're actually sending an email. So we find their cell phone numbers, and we're using tools like Phone Validator to figure out what their gateways are and what carrier that they're with. And once we find out what that gateway is, we're adding the cell phone number to that, and also simultaneously sending it out to their email. So we're doing it directly from Outlook.
Okay. I thought I saw something on your LinkedIn profile. You have an article about this, don't you? About how to send a text message through email. Could you just break that down again for me and just briefly tell me how that works?
Yeah, more than happy to. Actually, that was a hack that Shally Stackrow had shared at one of the recruiting conferences that I attended.
Cool.
And essentially using a couple different tools, whether it's Phone Validator or any other one, that you can go ahead and enter a cell phone number and find what the gateway is. So Phone Validator is one of the tools that we use, and it will actually provide you the gateway. Once you have the gateway, whether it's Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, it'll provide you what that gateway is, and then you actually just append it to the cell phone number, and you can send it out directly as an email, and it'll come across as an SMS message to the candidates.
So what does that email address look like? Like, give me an example of that.
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to make up a number here. So it would be, let's say, it's a 203 area code, etc. The number at, and then it would be T-Mobile or different ones. So some of the smaller carriers, you can go ahead and look up what those would be. So let me pull up an example here for you. I apologize. Should have that prepared for you.
That's okay.
Yeah, it is a fantastic one. And again, just you see the different sources, whether it's about between a 90 to 97% open rate, which is really, really high. And especially as we discussed earlier in the conversation, cutting through kind of all the noise and how you actually reach out to candidates. So Again, an example would be that cell phone number, and one of the gateways could be for Verizon, it's vtex.com, so be at vtex.com. So any phone number, and then at for AT&T would be txt@att.net. And so again, on my LinkedIn profile, I provide some of the gateways already there for you, whether it's Alltel, T-Mobile, AT&T, My Boost or Boost Mobile, Cricket. There's a whole bunch of different gateways that are there. So then it's the cell phone, and then add the gateway to that, and you can send it out directly as an email, and it'll come across to them as a text message and a mobile device.
Awesome. Well, I'll put a link in the show notes to your article as well. So sounds pretty cool. So, Duarte, what are your 3 primary sources of hiring right now? Is it employee referrals, and it goes from there? What are your top 3? Would you say?
Depending on the vertical within our company, but employee referrals always one of the higher ones. LinkedIn, and with some of the techniques that we're trying to use right now, we're trying to be proactive with our sourcing within our team. GitHub is creating quite a bit of leads for us, and DevBridge, and getting people to come across for us and starting those conversations. Predominantly, the team has been focused on LinkedIn and then employer referrals. But again, exploring other opportunities and ways to do that. In my past employment, Facebook, at that time when Union Intersect was working nice and sweet before Cambridge Analytica, we had increased about 25% of all our hires were coming directly sourced from Facebook. With sourcing Facebook.
What types of roles there?
And messaging people directly. So previously I was in the healthcare sector, so 25% of our hires, majority of those would be nursing or healthcare professionals that hold a license, were coming directly from Facebook. Again, that was using Union and Intersect, and really going out there and searching the groups, getting their messages, and then pretty much downloading the profiles into Snowvio via a Chrome extension, and exporting that into Datamine or other different tools to get the contact information and really start messaging those people. One of the other cool little hacks was using your cell phone to send messages through Messenger, because that would actually drop into the person's message box. Instead of it being a new message, it would go directly in. And so that was another way to kind of cut through some of the noise and get an opportunity there. I think some of the initial responses that I got, people were like, hey, who are you? Why are you messaging here? And then once you state kind of what your purpose is and why you're reaching out to them, most people were receptive. I think in doing that for about 9 months, 1 or 2 people may have said that they were not interested or not the appropriate means to communicate with them, that they kept that completely private and really didn't want it to be professional. But most people, then, once the purpose was stated as to why I was messaging them, were more than open and receptive to those employment conversations.
Interesting. You mentioned GitHub before. How do you have your recruiters typically use that? Is it pretty much just looking at the person's profile? I've never used GitHub, so can you actually message the developer in there, or do you have to find a backdoor into that?
You can in there, but most of the time we're using backdoors, where we're then going ahead and sourcing their profile and trying to find their email, or even then also cross-referencing, seeing if they have any LinkedIn profiles, other ways that we can reach them. So using other Chrome extensions like Hire Tool, or even Source Hub when we're on LinkedIn in different profiles, to really try to get that contact information, or other ways that we can message them. Because again, it's always a multiple-pronged attack. If you're hoping that one tool is going to work better than the other one, I think we're going at half-heartedly foolish with expecting results from one platform. So it's kind of teaching that this is a war on contact, and finding multiple ways that we can, because everyone uses different tools differently when they're looking for jobs, or when we're actually looking for passive candidates.
You seem pretty progressive when it comes to tools and tactics here, Duarte. I'm curious, is there anything you've kind of given up on as a tool or tactic recently that wasn't working for you guys? Anything come to mind there?
Well, with the changes with Facebook and the information being locked down, really have shifted more towards, again, finding and re-engaging people on LinkedIn, but finding that contact information outside of LinkedIn. The emails only work so well. I saw it in healthcare. and you see it even in IT where you message people and it's 6 to 9 months later and they're actually responding because they haven't been active on the platform. So that's one of the more difficult things, and that's why I really loved Facebook, just that the engagement was much higher. People were using it as a lifestyle tool on Facebook versus LinkedIn. Unfortunately, a lot of the members only use it when they're looking for employment. They don't use it as a professional resource. I think you'd see that from recruiters and other people that might be in marketing where they use it as kind of a living portfolio. So it's trying to cut through. So we're constantly reassessing and figuring out what works. It just really depends on the given day and how we're going. So we kind of go with what's hot and what's getting our best response rates and messaging people.
Gotcha. What other software tools are part of your stack right now, your HR tech stack, as far as anything for onboarding, video interviewing, anything like that?
So we use WebEx for our video interviewing right now through Outlook. We use HireTool. We're looking at potentially implementing HireTool and the Pro platform and the AI tool, now they have the newer version. I use SourceHub. I use SourceHub as a perfect example when we're doing kind of intake meetings. One of the questions that we ask the hiring managers, if they have a candidate profile, anyone that they identified that would make sense as a perfect individual for the role, and then we're taking their profile, dropping it there, and trying to build out a candidate profile and start reviewing applicants from there with the hiring managers to figure out what that looks like to better identify. So this way, when we are sourcing, we know some of the keywords or different variations of titles of what we should be looking for. So SourceHub to me is really important. I think Grammarly is definitely important, making sure that you have an appropriate message. We use Bitly to try to track some of the content that I share to make sure that we're getting response rates or engagement, what's working, not working. I mentioned Snowvio earlier, Data Miner, Contact Out, Lucia. So several different Chrome extensions to identify them. With LinkedIn, obviously, they implemented or released kind of Connectifier for those that have recruiter seats. It works, but I think there's a lot more misses than actual successes with the Connectifier tool. So it's just using several different ones to try to get that information, and there's not one perfect tool that we're using. Looking at potentially implementing Text.io, the augmented writing is really big right now. Obviously, with copywriting and writing job descriptions are really capturing the candidates and really telling a story as to why they would want to work for the company is important. So taking a look at Text.io and that augmented writing, and even supplementing their new tool for LinkedIn and how to write those emails.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about job descriptions. I mean, I think, too many out there are just, bullet points of duties. But there really should be job ads. So have you really taken a hard look at the actual the words in there and really tried to change that at all at FTD? Or I mean, have you gone so far as maybe hiring a copywriter at all? Or what are your thoughts around all that stuff?
I definitely think it makes sense hiring a copywriter. Those are all things that we are exploring. When you take a look again at the job description, is a compensation document intended to be able to grade or identify and weigh the position and figure out what the pay band should be for the role. When you then are taking that and posting it as your advertisement, I think you're losing out there. And I think most people miss that second word, job advertisement. It should be more of a marketing piece and have a lot more creative. To listen to a recent webinar that had some great copywriters on there, Christian DePape, Mitch Sullivan, and some other folks, and really the importance of identifying what's the meat of the position and reviewing that in the intake meeting and how we can sell this role. One of my recruiters likes to ask the question, what makes this job sexy? Why would this person want this job? And so trying to figure out what that is and trying to identify what is a person going to do in the first 60, 90 days, 6 months, 12 months? What problems are they solving? People like to also know and understand what they're coming into and doing. So we're exploring other options as well with video job descriptions. I really think that's kind of the next stage. And I think there's some companies like Skill Scout that do a really great job with that.
Just
to tell a story and also adding a visual.
Just come off a shoot with Skill Scout. With one of my clients, so definitely recommend them if you're interested. It's a pretty cool service that they do, and I think video job descriptions are definitely something that I would embed on the top of every job description if I had the money. If I was in your kind of position, it was definitely something that it's a visual web, and the more visual you can get, the better for candidates.
Yeah, and Skill Scout does a great job. They can do it for you, or they can teach you how to do it. So yep. I know Abby Cheeseman and her team do a fantastic job with that. So if the budget is limited, they can teach you how to do that and help you edit and cut that down and get that video. Again, you want that realistic job preview, right? You want to have people self-identify whether or not they can do the job. I think the biggest misses that we have are those individuals that thought they were coming into a different role, and then they're here in the first 60, 90 days, and it wasn't the job that they really thought they were coming into. That happens far too often with many companies, and so I think that realistic job preview in a video format really provides people a visual so they can kind of see the environment, what they're doing. Those are really important.
Very cool. Let me take a quick break here, listeners, so I can tell you about our other sponsor today, which is RoboRecruiter and their recruiting chatbot technology. Their job vet campaigns help recruiters vet and select candidates for particular roles. They make it easy to quickly build conversations that are personalized to each candidate, such as asking them pre-screening questions before they apply. It really helps you to start prioritizing your top candidates within minutes. So check them out at roborecruiter.ai. So Duarte, tell me a sourcing story, one where you got, or maybe someone in your team, got really creative in finding somebody that was kind of hard to find. It could be from your days at FTD or going back to your healthcare recruiting days. But do you have one for us?
There's so many different ones. One that I can think off the top of my mind was actually attending an actual conference to try to get in touch with a particular candidate that we were looking for an education role, and participating and going there to the conference to listen to them speak and starting the conversation there. We ended up actually hiring that individual. Another one was actually trying to schedule a doctor's appointment with a physical candidate for an executive role. They were in the psychology arena and really trying to get an appointment on their calendar and get in touch with them and getting into the office to talk to them about employment. So any way you need to actually get in front of somebody again to start that conversation. I think that's my biggest takeaway over the past several years. It's not identifying candidates. You can do that with all these tools. You can find them with being online. It's cutting through that noise and being able to get in front of them. And you have to be creative, whether it's actually attending a meetup, finding where they are. So again, that cyber sloughing and figuring out what they are a part of and joining that community and really expressing true interest in what they do every single day. I have other recruiters that will actually ask for people for advice and saying, hey, I'm looking to break into this or find out more information. Are you willing to teach me? Let's go grab a coffee. And people really open to sharing their knowledge and teaching, and then getting into conversation like, oh, wow, you actually know a little bit more about this and what you led on to believe, and then transitioning the conversation about potential opportunities of employment. So again, a little deceiving, but with the intent to try to get that conversation and hopefully align them with a job opportunity.
Awesome. Any technology you're looking to maybe implement in the next 6 to 12 months at FTD? What's on your radar?
The two that I mentioned earlier with Text.io and HireTool, really trying to leverage that. I think one of the other things that we're looking to do from a technology perspective would be implementing a CRM really to focus on the employer brand, whether it's through Sprout, Hootsuite, or Buffer. Trying to take a look at how we can organically engage our active employees to share this content, and then we can kind of broadcast it. I think that's the best way when it becomes a little bit more natural and you can kind of empower your own employees, really focusing on employee engagement as well as retention. You see that with companies that have a stronger employer brand, they have a higher rate of retention, especially with those employees that get to actually participate in it. If you're having that crap day and you're on, whether it's Facebook or social media, and you kind of see some of the cool things your company's doing, you're like, okay, I remember that's why I'm here today. So I think that's really important. So that's something that we're hopefully going to try to push. That awareness from an employer brand perspective is really important, and one I think makes a whole lot of sense in these days, because people, again, aren't actively looking to post positions. With millennial unemployment rate here in Chicago, it's less than 1.9%. So, they're not really looking for jobs, but of that, over 60% of them saying they're open to discussing opportunities about new roles. So that's why we have to shift to that brand awareness and us going out to proactively engage this audience. That's
the key word, proactive. Glad you said that. Appreciate the great conversation today, Duarte. You going to any conferences this year coming up?
I don't have any planned or scheduled with transitioning to FTD in March. That kind of changed some of my plans for the immediate future, but definitely looking to get to a SourceCon next year and RecTech meeting. So trying to plan things for next year, but for 2018 now.
Gotcha. Well, Duarte Mendonca, I think I said that right. Thank you very much for joining me today. Tell listeners how to connect with you and how to apply to FTD.
Yes, they can apply to ftdcompanies.com for all opportunities. Our open positions are available online. You can find our roles as well on LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I pretty much accept all invites, especially with those that indicate kind of a purpose or a premise as to why they're looking to connect. And please connect with me.
Awesome. And we'll link to everything in the show notes, listeners. That'll do it for this edition of the RecTech Podcast. Thanks again to our sponsors, HireTool and RoboRecruiter. Don't forget you can subscribe to the show via iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and Stitcher Radio. Thanks for listening, and remember, always be recruiting.
Another episode of RecTech is in the books. Follow Chris on Twitter at Chris Russell or visit RecTechMedia.com, where you can find the audio and links for this show on our blog. RecTech Media helps both HR tech firms and employers to get more clients or candidates through our consulting practice and online tools. So be sure to check out our sites like recruiting headlines, job fairing, and more to stay up to date on what's happening in recruiting. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon on the next episode of RecTech, the Recruiting Technology Podcast.